Okay, speaking of mentors, years ago when I was just out of high school, and I heard that a famous artist had come from New York, and he was getting a divorce, and he'd had a lot of shows, and he was very prominent. So I managed to find out where he was living, and I knocked on his door. I was 17 years old, and he opened the door, and he had this long beard, long hair, had a glass of wine in his hands, and he was blowing smoke in my face pretty much. And this was 9 in the morning. And I said, hi, I've heard you're a famous artist. He just kind of blew smoke in my face. He wasn't a very friendly guy. So I said, well, I'd like to learn about art. I'd like to, apprentice with you. And he just kind of flipped the door open like I was the garbage man or something. So he sits down, he's a chain smoker, and he says, well, first thing you're going to do is clean my kitchen. I said, what? He says, yeah, clean my kitchen. So I go and I clean his kitchen. I figure, well, maybe he's just eccentric or something. So I clean his kitchen. He says, well, you need to do the floors. Okay, so I'm mopping the floors, and then he says, you know what, you need to vacuum the living room. I said, what's that got to do with art? He says, you'll find out. Just calm down. Just vacuum the floors. So this went on for hours. And I was not a happy camper by the time I left. He says, well, come back tomorrow. I said, okay, I'll be back tomorrow. So I showed up at 6 in the morning because he's an early bird. He opens the door. He's got a glass of wine in his hand. He's blowing smoke in my face. And he says, okay, come on in. So I come on in, he says, well, you need to clean the toilet. I'm like, I don't want to clean the toilet. What's this got to do with art? He says, clean the toilet. So I'm cleaning the bathtub, the toilet, his bedroom. I mean, this guy was a slob. And this went on for another day. I says, look, I quit. He says, no, tomorrow's your lesson. I said, okay, I'll come back. So I come back at 6 o'clock in the morning, and this time he has this big table, and on it are all the rumbled brushes, a mess of pastels. And he spends about 5 seconds indicating that he wants me to clean every chalk with this little piece of paper. And it's got to be gradated, so light colors, whites, yellow, cadmium yellow, orange, red, and so on and so forth. So I'm sitting there for hours cleaning these chalks and lining them up in these gradations of colors. Then I'm cleaning all the brushes. Then I'm cleaning all the chalks. I'm lining up all the pencils. He's got paper out. At the end of the day, when I'm really beat, he says, okay, now we're going to begin. So he puts a pad of paper in front of me. He sits down with his wine and his cigarettes. And he says, draw me. And I'm going, wow, this must be the lesson. So I'm drawing him, and I'm throwing all his chalks in there. And he looks at it. He comes and looks at it. He rips it up and throws it. He says, do it again. I'm like going, are you kidding? Really? So I'm drawing him again, different pose. He's ripping it up and throwing it on the floor. So I have to clean it up. He keeps ripping up every drawing I'm doing. Well, by the end of the day, I was ready to kill myself. I was crying. I was really upset. He says, come back tomorrow. I'm sitting there, yeah, I'll come back tomorrow. No problem. So I show up the next day. Here's all the chalks and everything. He says, here's your chalk. And I said, well, it's just black. He says, yes, exactly. It's just black. Now you're going to draw me. So I'm drawing him. He's falling asleep. I'm drawing him snoring. I'm drawing him in the bathtub. He didn't care if he was half naked or whatever. He just walked around. There was nothing going on sexually at all. It was just, this is me. I'm your model. You're going to draw me. So I'm drawing him all day long. But I'm actually getting pretty good now because I was beginning to understand what the lesson was. The lesson was that I was focused and actually saw him and really paid attention to detail without all the color confusing what I was trying to do. So this went on for 2 or 3 days, and actually I did some of those beautiful drawings of him over 3 days. And finally one day he says to me, well, here is a peach chalk, and I want you to look at my face and my body and only put the peach where you actually see it. Not generally, but just where you see it. So I'm sitting there staring at him. So I see a little peach in his face there, a little in the cheek, maybe a little in the neck, and that's it. That's the only place I saw a peach. Well, the following day, he gave me a pale aqua chalk. He says, now I want you to just put this very pale aqua chalk where you see it in my face. So I'm staring at him, and I finally see that it's just like the reflection off the sweater. It's under the eyes, it's in the eyes, So I'm only painting peach and aqua. And this went on for 3 or 4 days, and every day I got an extra chalk. By the end of about 2 weeks, I had a perfect drawing of him that showed exactly what all the colors were, and I began to realize that I had not really paid attention to what I was really looking at. So as time went on, he starts putting up these compositions, in front of me, and he says, you can look at it as long as you want, but when you turn around, you're going to paint what you remember. And it's got to be exactly as you remember it. So take your time looking at it. So I'm sitting there staring at this thing for about 3 hours, trying to memorize every little nuance of this composition. And then when I turned around, I did it. And of course, I forgot about half of it. And so this was another exercise I had to keep doing to get my memory more in gear with what I'm seeing and how I'm rendering it. Then we go out to dumps, we find found objects, and he was kind of an assemblage artist. So we're putting this whole thing together, and I'm hammering, and I'm painting, and I'm basically an art slave, pretty much. Yeah. But when you give up that kind of ego and you let a real master show you what you're doing, you kind of enjoy it because you're not making any real decisions. You're going along with the process of another artist. And I really kind of enjoyed it. So one day he said to me, well, we're going to go to this place in the west side of Vegas, and it's an all black area. I didn't know what he meant by that because at the time there was a lot of segregation going on. So we go into this area of Las Vegas, and we go into this club around late afternoon, around 5 o'clock, and it was completely black people. We walk in, they all turned around and looked at us like, what the hell are you doing here? Whiteys or whatever, what they call honkies. So I was like, oh my God, this is beyond what I thought. So we're sitting down, he orders a beer, and I get a ginger ale or something. So they're all looking at us, and he tells me at the table, he says, you see those jazz musicians over there, the one with the saxophone and the bass and all that. You're going to go over there and you're going to ask them permission very politely to draw them, because I had my sketchbook with me and some pastels and all that. And I said, I'm not going over there. I was intimidated. I was scared to death. He says, well, I'm going to order some food, and when you go over there and draw them, I will order some food for you. So 2 hours went by, and I refused to go over there. And these guys are playing saxes. They're having a good time. The place was packed. So I was so hungry, I finally went over there when they were on break. And I says, sirs, would you mind if I drew you? I'm an artist. I'm trying to be an artist. And they all started laughing their heads off at me. And they said, sure, you sit on down here, and we'll let you draw us. And they're all laughing. Everybody's laughing. Now, do you want a beer or do you want something to drink? I said, no, I'm just water. So I was drawing these guys, and I realized that black people are not really black. They're actually purple, ochre, Van Dyke brown, dark blue. They were everything but black. And every single black person there was either a cocoa color or like a Fezani dark indigo blue with highlights of red, depending on what you're seeing from the reflection of the lights coming off that club. And they loved those drawings. They ended up taking those drawings. They bought me dinner. And that was the beginning of when I understood how art opens doors on any level. That if you're willing to take the chance and do those drawings, eventually every door will open to you. Not only rich people, not only celebrities, but all walks of life. Oops, I missed the joke. Anyway, so that's my little story there.